and welcome back to johannakatakana. My name is Johanna. I'm a Swedish girl who's currently living in Kanagawa, Japan, attending a Japanese university, and today I'm here to answer all of your questions. So yesterday I posted a video on YouTube and I posted a story on Instagram asking you guys for questions that you have for me. It could be about my personal life, about studying in Japan, living in Japan, and I got lots of different questions. So I will try to not talk too much for each question so that this video won't get super long, and I will answer every question that I got from you both on YouTube and on Instagram. And I think I will start with the YouTube questions, so let's get started. So my first question is from YouTube and Rosie, and it is, what's your favorite anime? And well, there are basically two answers to this. My favorite anime, as in the one that I'm the most emotionally connected to, is definitely Naruto, because that's the anime that really got me into Japan. But as of the anime that I enjoy the most, it's definitely Attack on Titan. Probably pretty basic, but that's it. And I also really love Death Note. So if I were to be asked what's my top three, it's probably Attack on Titan, Naruto, and Death Note. Next question. I got two questions from Jack Lee, and the first one is, what techniques/processes would you use to study Japanese? Well, I haven't really used any specific techniques. I know there are different techniques for remembering kanji and stuff. I haven't really used anything specific. I think the main thing I've been focusing on is interacting with Japanese people and really making sure to put the Japanese that I learned to practice. Like anything I learned, I've never been like very good at, taking notes in a specific way or anything like that, but I've always made sure to really use the Japanese that I've learned in different situations, and that could be hard if you're not currently in Japan, but I really recommend you to try to find a language partner, tandem partner who you can use Japanese with, or just try to talk to yourself in Japanese. Basically, just speak it and use it as much as you can. And the second question is, what's your favorite region or location in Japan? And I love this question because it makes me think of my favorite city in Japan, which is Fukuoka. Fukuoka is the city. For you who don't know, it's the biggest city in southern Japan on the island of Kyushu, and that is where I spent my 2 years in language school. Fukuoka is it's a great city, close to the sea, with great beaches. It's close to the mountains, close to nature. It's easy access to different other parts of Kyushu and also other parts of Asia. I took the ferry to South Korea, for example, at like 3.5 hours. And the food is great, the people are great, the vibe is great, the size of the city is great. So Fukuoka is definitely my favorite place. I do also want to mention, though, the area that I'm living in right now, which is called Shonan. It's an area in southern Kanagawa that kind of it's spread out over the beach area here. So yeah, the southern part of Kanagawa. It's so pretty, kind of an Hawaiian exotic vibe. There are lots of surfers here. It's very popular as a date spot or as a tourist spot. And we have Enoshima, we have Kamakura, and well, Hakone is not Shonan, but it's easy to access Yokohama and Tokyo. So yeah, I would say Fukuoka, and I guess also Shonan. Okay, so my next question is from Nes Ruiz, and it said, when I followed you on Instagram, I noticed that you attend one of the Lifehouse churches, and I was wondering, what is it like being a Christian in Japan? Yeah, so if you who don't know, I am a Christian, and I go to an international church here in Japan called Lifehouse. And what's it like being a Christian in Japan? Like, the thing that I felt the most is back in Sweden, Christianity is a lot bigger than it is here in Japan, which means that people have a stronger and more clear image of what Christianity is like people who are not Christians. And therefore they also have more biased opinions on Christianity. While in Japan, Christianity is not that big and many people don't really know a lot about it. So I've found that it's a lot easier to talk about my faith and what I believe to Japanese people, because I'm not met with criticism or negativity, but rather with curiosity, and they want to know more. And of course, there are less Christian people here than in Sweden, where I'm from. But even so, there are actually quite a lot of churches here, and there are, especially in the bigger cities, definitely you can find international church communities and churches and people to connect with. So I haven't at all felt like it's been hard to be a Christian here in Japan. I have found a Christian community like anywhere that I've gone in the three cities, Kumamoto, Fukuoka, and Fujisawa that I'm living in now. But yeah, I like it. Being a Christian in Japan is pretty nice, yeah. Okay, third question from Johnny Cat. Do you feel living in Japan has changed you as a person in any way? And well, I guess so. Like, I moved here the first time when I was 18 for a year, and then when I was 20, I moved back. So I've basically grown up in Japan. I'm 24, turning 25 this year. So most of my adult years I've spent in Japan. So I can't say like anything specific that I've changed. I just think I have matured, and I've matured kind of into the Japanese culture. So I'm sure that that has affected me in different ways, but I think I need to sit down and reflect more on that, and I can make another video on that later on when I have a more clear answer. Okay, so my last question from YouTube is from Sarah Mermaid, and she asks, what is your favorite Japanese restaurant? And this is easy. My favorite Japanese restaurant is Otoya. Otoya is a restaurant with typical Japanese food. It's really healthy. They have so many different options. So good. I love their karaage. I love their stews and soups. And it's also very cheap. I actually have an Otoya near the station where I live, which I'm very happy about. Okay, let's head over to my Instagram questions. And I'm sorry if I'm talking really loud. I'm trying to speed this up so it won't be a super long video. Okay, so the first question on Instagram is from Pulindu007. And he asks, I would like to know whether we are able to do a degree in Japan in English medium. English medium? I'm not really sure if I understand the question correctly, but if what you're asking is if you can do a degree in English, then the answer is yes. Some Japanese universities have like whole degrees and programs only in English, and I know that there are at least a couple of universities that are like American universities or international universities that are completely in English. So yes, that is possible. The next question is from Sienna Mochi, and she asks, how long would you like to live in Japan for? And well, how long? Like, I don't know how long I'm going to live, but I guess at the moment I have no plans at all on going back to Sweden. That's why I'm studying Japanese. That's why I'm in a Japanese university, because I want to prepare as well as I can to get into the Japanese society, to live in Japan, to work in Japan, and to be active as a citizen of the Japanese society. And so I'm investing both money, time, effort into working towards my goal of living in Japan long term. So I'm definitely not going to give up on that quickly. And yeah, I don't have any plans at the moment of leaving Japan, so who knows? Next question, or non-question, is from my sister, Sara. She says, it's not a question, but I love your style. Thank you. Christian asks, when is my birthday? And I don't remember. Sorry. Next question is from Tokyo Tokidoki, who asks, what is Japan like without so many tourists? And this is an interesting and good question. I haven't been around to a lot of touristy areas myself because of the situation. I've heard that places like Kyoto, where there normally would be tons and tons of tourists, were empty of people, at least last year when the pandemic was just starting. I myself have been to Kamakura and Enoshima, which are places that are usually very popular with tourists, and especially Kamakura. It's pretty empty, and I think the biggest thing is that you don't really see like a lot of Western people or people that are like, you can really tell that they're foreigners. Of course, people still travel inside of Japan, and so there are always tourists in any area because Japanese people don't stop traveling around. I think the biggest thing is that you don't see as many Western people, and yeah, I don't know, like in my area especially, like when there are no tourists, there are basically no Western people at all. So every time I go to, for example, Yokohama, and I see more foreign people, I feel kind of good, because like, oh, finally I get to see some people who look like me. But yeah, I haven't felt the difference that much because I haven't been around that much either, but trains are still crowded. There are still people anywhere you go. I guess it's just less crowded because touristy places in for example, spring with the cherry blossom season, it's just like you don't want to go there anyways because there are just too many people. It's nice, I guess. Okay, next question is from Peregrine Days. Sorry if I said that wrong. Do you want to stay in Japan forever? Yeah, it's basically the same question as Sienna Mochi. Forever, I mean, you never know what's gonna happen in your life, and there might be a big change in my life, or because I believe that God has called me to be in Japan, so if God tells me to go somewhere else, then of course I will follow that. But as of right now, maybe I have no plans on moving anywhere else. Next question is from Woozy Vegas, and it is, what is life in Japan like? Like the anime, and how is university life there? To be honest, I can't really compare my life to Japanese anime because the animes I've watched have been more about like not everyday life anime. So if I'd watched more of those like typical university student life, high school animes, I probably would have more to compare with. But I've more watched like fantasy or, you know, like, yeah, bigger stories that are not that real. But I would say when I did my high school exchange when I was 18 and I went to Japanese high school, I lived with the host family, had the sailor uniform. I guess my life was a little bit like an anime back then, or at least the image I had. Like I had the seat in the back, right next to the window, and you know, I had the bento boxes and everything like that. But right now, I don't think my life is like an anime. It's just like normal life, I guess. And the second question was, how is university life? Well, this year obviously has been a little different. My spring semester was completely online, which sucked. My fall semester, I think I had 2/3 of my classes offline or in person, which was great. And I'm really enjoying it at the moment. And I'm even more excited for my third year of university because I'm going to go even more into the things that I'm the most interested in, which is creating video. Okay, the next question is from Sid the Sloth 1217, and it is, how is university life in Japan different from Europe? I haven't been to university in Europe, and I guess especially in Sweden, I don't have that much to compare with, but I guess that it's different in the way that people feel a bit younger, and I mean, I guess in universities in Sweden and other parts, there are still clubs, but I think the club culture is different in Japan. And so, you know, sports clubs, music clubs, different. We have like a Pokemon club, like excursion club, party clubs. I guess that culture is a little different. And then university life. I don't think I can give a fair answer on this, to be honest, because I don't really know what university life in Europe is like, but I'm sure it's a bit different. The next question is from Mary Noger, and it reads, what got you started with Japanese language? How long have you been there? I've been in Japan for 4.5 years, going on 5 years. Oh my god. And what got you started with Japanese language? Well, I actually have a video on my channel where I talk about why I moved to Japan. So instead of telling you the whole story, I'm gonna put that up in the cards here. So go check that out after you watch this video to find out how I came to start to like Japan and why I moved to Japan. Pietra Paz asks, how difficult was it to learn Japanese? Any tips? I guess it was difficult. I think more than difficult, it's time consuming. You have to spend a lot of time. I've never felt like, wow, this is so difficult. It's more that I've had to invest a lot of time and things that I haven't been able to grasp directly, like for example different grammar points. Like I've just had to spend time practicing and reading, researching, and using in conversations. So I mean, of course, there are some difficult parts like particles. Kanji can be difficult to remember. But any tips? Well, like I said in the beginning of the video, using your Japanese as much as possible is a really important thing for you to really learn it and like remember it like by heart. And another tip I do have is to really be diligent with your kanji. Some people neglect kanji when they start to study Japanese, but I would say start and attack the kanji as soon as possible when you start studying, so that the balance between your kanji level and everything else is the same. Because some people, when they don't study kanji and they go ahead and improve on everything else, their kanji skills will fall behind and it's kind of hard to catch up and balance the levels out. So really go ahead and start with your kanji as soon as possible. That is to say, if you actually want to learn the kanji. If you just want to learn how to speak Japanese and hold a conversation, then don't care about the kanji. The next two questions are from Marius in Tokyo, and he asks, how much time did you spend working while you participated in language school, and do you think the full 28 hours are even realistic or doable? And so for those of you who don't know, when you're on a student visa in Japan, you are only able to work, well, allowed to work up to 28 hours per week, just so that they can make sure that you focus on studying and aren't working. And I worked for a bit more than a year when I was in language school, so for a bit more than half of my education. And out of that year and 1 or 2 months, I worked maybe 9 or 10 months. 9 or 10 of those months that I worked, I did work 28 hours per week. And the reason why I did that was mainly because I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't really have a choice but to work that amount. And it is definitely doable. I was able to, and I think because most language schools, they only have classes for 4 hours, maybe 5 hours, depending on the school per day, which means that you do have time to work a couple of hours every day or a couple of hours a few days a week. And that is what I did. Now, it is definitely doable, but it is tough and it's very tiring. And if you have the opportunity or chance not to work that much, I would probably suggest that you didn't. Like, I was pretty tired for the time that I was working. I worked in the morning, then I went to school after, and then school finished in the evening. I went back home, had food, and went to sleep, and then woke up to go to work the next day again. So it was pretty tiring, and it's not something I recommend, but it's definitely doable. When I started to prepare for JLPT N1 and for my EGU university exam, I took down the amount of time that I worked to around 15 hours per week. And then before a month or so, or two, maybe before the exam started, both the JLPT and the EGU, I quit my part-time job so I would be able to fully focus on my studies, because I did not want my part-time job to get in the way of me passing N1 and me getting into university. Okay, so 2 questions left, and the second to last question is from Ross McPherson, and the question is, how quickly did you make new friends when you went to Fukuoka Foreign Language College? And it's kind of a funny story because I made a friend actually on the airport in Hong Kong when I was about to go to Fukuoka. It's kind of crazy to think about now, but I flew from Copenhagen to Milan in Italy to Hong Kong and then to Fukuoka. And when I was in Hong Kong at the gate waiting for the plane to go to Fukuoka, I saw a girl sitting and waiting at the same gate as me, and something told me that I looked at her and I thought, she looks like a girl who would go to Japanese language school. There's just something about her that made me feel like, I think she's also going to Japanese language school. So I actually went up to her and asked her, are you going to Fukuoka? She was like, yeah, I am. And then I asked, are you going to language school? And then she said, yes. And it turned out that we were about to go to the same language school. So I actually made my first friend on the airport even before I arrived in Fukuoka. And then when I did arrive in Fukuoka, there were a couple of other students who turned out to be from the same language school who were going to go to the same language school as me, waiting to be picked up by school staff. So then I made some friends at the airport in Fukuoka, and then together we went to school to get some documents and to get a little some explanations and a little guide. And then it turned out that most of us were also living in the same dorm, so we went to the dorm and then we talked more. Yeah, so the first day I made quite a lot of friends, and the coming few days when I lived in my dormitory, I made lots and lots and lots of friends. So even before school even started, I had already met over 20 people that I had connected with. So yeah, I made friends before school even started, and a big part of that was being in a dormitory. Okay, so my last question for this Q&A is from Kyla, and she asks, how did you afford to go to Japan? How long did it take you to save up? So I started to save to move to Japan when I was in my 3rd year of high school. I didn't have an income. I just had the money we get as support as students in Sweden. So it wasn't that much, maybe $100. Wait, $100? Yeah, $100, a bit more, maybe a month, that I would save a bit of every month. And then when I graduated from high school, I worked for around 10 months. I worked full time. I had some different jobs and I saved money for that. And that money I was able to pay for the ticket to go to Japan, for the first year of tuition fee and the first 6 months of living in a dormitory. And then I started working after to support myself. And then the 2nd year of language school, I started to use a Swedish student loan from the Swedish government. So that helped me to finance my 2nd year. That financed my tuition fee for the 2nd year and part of my living expenses as well. So yeah, the first year I did not use any loans or anything. It was just me using the savings I had from when I was in Sweden and then what I earned while working a part-time job. And then the 2nd year was mostly what I got from the student loan that I took out from the Swedish government, and then of course what I earned working in a part-time job as well. Woo, that was a lot of questions. Thank you guys so much for sending in such fun and interesting questions. I'm really happy with how this Q&A turned out, and I hope you're able to learn something new about Japan, about me, about language schools, about my experience, whatever. I will be back posting regularly from now on, so if you have any suggestions or video ideas, make sure to leave them in the comments, or else I do already have quite a lot of ideas for what I'm going to make moving forward. I hope you're all doing great. If you have any questions based on what I've talked about now, you can leave them in the comments and I will answer them directly in the comments. And with all of that said, have a great day, have a great weekend, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!